By 1600, Queen Elizabeth I was 68 years old and lacked a named successor to the throne. Her aging, childless status ignited severe cultural panic regarding the continuity of the state. The English nobility were acutely anxious about the prospect of civil war, with contemporary diplomats documenting a widespread, vocal refusal to submit to a woman's rule once again. The Crown attempted to mask this vulnerability through carefully controlled propaganda portraits, presenting Elizabeth as an ageless, eternal figure. But historical accounts document a starkly different reality, noting her oblong, wrinkled face, her yellow and broken teeth, and her reliance on false red hair. Every visible sign of her age was a reminder that the kingdom was tethered to a failing mortal frame. The physical reality of Elizabeth's aging body created a severe conceptual crisis for the ideological stability of the English monarchy. To understand why this caused such panic, we have to look at a medieval political theology known as the king's two bodies, which dictated exactly how Tudor society understood royal power. Under this framework, the monarch possessed a body natural. This was the literal human form, flesh and bone, strictly susceptible to aging, disease, and death. Simultaneously, they possessed a body politic. This was the immortal, abstract essence of the state. It was considered perfect, incorruptible, and passed seamlessly from one sovereign to the next. 16th century medicine coded the female body as inherently carnal and corruptible. When the monarch was an aging woman, this theological overlay shattered. The perfection of the state could not map onto a physical form defined by physical decay. William Shakespeare uses the character of Queen Gertrude in Hamlet as a surrogate to explore this exact biological and political anxiety. Hamlet maps specific Tudor property and suicide laws onto its narrative to actively discredit female political power and systematically eject the feminine from the body politic. Traditional psychoanalytic readings of the play often assume Hamlet himself, the so-called melancholy prince, is the source of Denmark's metaphorical disease. This visualization charts the text's imagery. Disease terminology clusters explicitly around Gertrude's sexuality and Claudius's usurpation. Hamlet's dialogue reinforces this, calling the marriage an ulcerous place. By linking her second marriage to rank corruption mining the state, Shakespeare anchors the rot to her choices. The sovereign's physical corruption does not stay isolated. It tangibly poisons the surrounding political landscape, bleeding into the court and paralyzing the entire nation. Aligning disease with the Queen's second marriage identifies female sexual autonomy as a primary source of political corruption. This biological threat translates directly into the legal realm, specifically regarding land ownership and succession. Under traditional common law primogeniture, land acted as an inalienable legacy, passed directly from father to son. In 1536, the Statute of Uses allowed land to be devised by will outside the bloodline, turning the kingdom into a movable chattel. Aristocratic families frequently leveraged the Statute of Uses to actively keep land out of female hands, circumventing common law to ensure ancestral estates bypassed daughters in favor of male descendants. Prince Hamlet is caught between these dual legal regimes. His disinheritance is a direct disruption of primogeniture, facilitated entirely by Gertrude's remarriage to Claudius. The play defines female control over royal succession as a destabilizing form of legal chicanery that systematically erodes the male heir's status. In Act 4, we see the legal mechanism for removing this female presence through the madness and death of Ophelia. Under contemporary 16th century law, suicide was categorized as a felony because it unlawfully deprived the king's body politic of a subject. In the landmark 1560 legal case, Hales v. Pettit, a male suicide resulted in his lands being permanently forfeited to the female sovereign, Queen Elizabeth. Hamlet metaphorically inverts this historical precedent. By treating Ophelia's death as a suicide, the play legally forfeits her standing to the male heir. The dark water claims her body, legally and physically severing her entirely from the living political community of Denmark. Ophelia's death operates as a strict legal mechanism to physically and symbolically eject the female body from the normative political realm. The contested burial in the graveyard scene of Act 5 becomes the literal and legal battleground for the community. Ophelia's ejection from the body politic creates a legal vacuum, and Hamlet steps directly into it. Over her open grave, Hamlet utilizes highly specific language reminiscent of the Statute of Uses to systematically reassert his patrilineal rights over the space. The physical burial and strict removal of the female body acts as the necessary catalyst, allowing the male heir to legally reclaim his stolen identity and his kingdom. The moment Hamlet fully embraces the role of the avenger, the text's imagery shifts dramatically. This chart tracks the linguistic shift in the final act. The previous data points of sickness and rot are entirely eradicated, replaced abruptly as the masculine lexicon of war, military honor, and violence spikes drastically. The arrival of Fortinbras and the martial rites ordered for Old Hamlet cement a permanent return to a rigid, patriarchal warrior culture. The decaying remnants of the old, weakened regime are violently swept away by a rigid new martial order. By stripping away the female body politic, killing both Gertrude and Ophelia, Hamlet stages a reactionary fantasy of regendering. It resolves late Elizabethan anxieties by violently restoring the kingdom to an uninterrupted, masculine feudal order.